Hi, I'm Amanda,
And I'm Cara.
and welcome to the Historical Society podcast. Thank you for joining us today. What? Did I look weird?
The historical.
The Historical Society podcast. I was trying to make it sound intriguing.
It did.
Do it again.
No, I said it
It
did.
did? Oh, yes. Mission
Okay.
accomplished.
Trying to change the screen setting here.
So
Speaker.
we are going to talk today about 2024 basically. We're going to look back at 2024 and kind of look through it in two different lenses. And
Like
then
what you said languages.
yeah. I was going to try to say something in German, but I'm like it's been a long time since I took German. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm not
long.
even going to bother. So we're going to divide it into three sections, sort of. Though the middle one sort of, the last two are related to each other. So the first one is just remembrance. We're calling this episode Remembrance, Reflection, Resolution. And the first segment is going to be looking at women who have passed away over the past year, over 2024.
Okay.
And then we'll kind of reflect on them and then we'll move into kind of what people do at this time of year, sometimes setting resolutions. So we'll talk about our individual resolutions and whatever at the end.
Cool.
Cool.
Okay.
All right.
So what do we start with?
So why don't we move directly into remembrance? So I picked out a couple women to look at that I felt were really inspirational, made a difference during their lifetimes. The first one is Congresswoman Sheila Jackson Lee, and she was born January 12th, 1950, and she passed away this year, July 19th, 2024. And I thought I'd talk a little bit about her basically by reading a little snippet of her from the Legal Defense Fund's website, and she collaborated with the Legal Defense Fund. It says Sheila Jackson Lee represented the 18th Congressional District of Texas in the United States House of Representatives. Since her election in 1994, she was an influential voice in Washington and was named by a Congressional Quarterly as one of the 50 most effective members of Congress. Originally from Queens, New York, Representative Jackson Lee earned a BA in political science from Yale University with honors in the first graduating class, including women, followed by a GD from the University of Virginia Law School. She was a founding member and co-chair of the Congressional Children's Caucus and sat on 3 congressional committees: the House Committee on the Judiciary, Homeland Security, and the Crucial Budget Committee. So just to start off with, I wanted to say that I found that really interesting that she graduated in one of the first co-ed classes from Yale.
Wow.
That's kind of mind-boggling. But this is someone who obviously she just passed away, so has been alive during our lifetime. So in our lifetime, there was a woman who was part of, so like Yale didn't have co-ed classes for that long, if you think about it. It's wild. All right. This continues. Representative Jackson Lee passed away on July 19th, 2024 at 74 years old. The Legal Defense Fund deeply mourns her loss. Through her visionary leadership as a public servant, Representative Jackson Lee dedicated herself selflessly to advancing civil rights with grace, intellect, and power. During her impressive 29-year tenure as a congresswoman, she worked to address countless issues of critical importance to the Black community, including in collaboration with the Legal Defense Fund. During her tenure... Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. During her tenure, Representative Jackson Lee introduced several bills, including the Juvenile Accountability Block Grant Reauthorization, Bullying Prevention and Intervention Act, and H.R. 71, the Federal Prison Bureau Nonviolent Offender Relief Act of 2015. Are those the same thing in H.R. 71? What is H.R. 71?
House Resolution 71.
Is that the Federal Prison Bureau thing?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, so I guess...
I read that right.
Yeah.
She consistently fought for criminal justice reform, sponsoring legislation including the Sentencing Reform Act, Law Enforcement Trust and Integrity Act, the RAISE Act, the Fair Chance for Youth Act, Caliph's Law, and the American Rising Act of 2015. Her bill, H.R. 4660, an amendment to the Commerce, Justice, and Science Appropriations Act for fiscal year 2015, affirms the authority of the Attorney General to reduce prison overcrowding by developing and implementing lawful policies relating to requests for executive clemency from deserving petitioners. That's a lot.
Yeah.
She was a steadfast champion for women and children, supporting the Paycheck Fairness Act and Pregnancy Workers Fairness Act, and introducing an amendment to H.R. 2262 that provides for outreach to minority and women-owned businesses with respect to business opportunities in the commercial space industry. She additionally authorized H.R. 45, the Triple Negative Breast Cancer Research and Education Act of 2015. Okay.
And yeah, so she also served, we already mentioned she served in the Homeland Security Subcommittee that focused on maritime and border security. And she co-authored a bill, the bipartisan bill, H.R. 1417, and it is touted as one of the best vehicles for accomplishing comprehensive immigration reform in the U.S. House of Representatives. She was past chairwoman of the Homeland Security Subcommittee on Transportation and Security. And yeah, so she really was an active Congress person, and she, she wasn't that type of woman that just kind of went there and didn't do anything. She was very active and very persistent for those that she represented and for passing legislation that would benefit everybody. So
Cool.
yeah. And then I wanted to highlight a little moment. So there was I think a memorial service for Congresswoman Jackson Lee, and at this memorial, Kamala Harris spoke. And I kind of read through what Kamala Harris said. I'm not going to read her speech, but I just wanted to highlight some of the ways she described Congresswoman Jackson Lee. So Kamala Harris described her as a fierce champion for justice, a woman of deep faith and deep compassion, a force of nature, and one of the smartest and most strategic legislators. I said legislatures. Legislators.
Legislators.
Yeah. Okay. And then I thought I listened to a video of her speaking. I forget at which event Sheila was speaking at, but she said, "Our message is our power. We are here to serve, and there's more to come in changing lives for justice, equality, and freedom." So I thought that was a good quote of hers just because it highlighted a lot of her passions, in regards to civil rights and things like that.
Yeah, for sure.
So I wanted to highlight her because she was a powerful force in the U.S. House of Representatives, and she did a lot with her life, and she was a force of nature, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, she was only 74.
Yeah, it's
She
sad.
passed away.
Yeah.
Not very old.
Yeah. Okay, we're going to move on to the next person we're focusing on, and I had never heard of her, but her life story is actually really cool. This is Ruth Johnson Colvin. She was born December 16th, 1916, and died this year, August 18th, 2024, and she was 107. That's nuts, right?
Wow. Founder of Literacy Volunteers of America.
Right. Excuse me. I don't know what happened. I think it's because I just blew out my candle. I'm like, what?
Maybe.
Okay. It smelled good, but not so good right now with all the smoke.
No.
Yeah. I was going to read a little bit from a New York Times article because I thought it was super informative. And this was written August 19th of this year. It was written by Robert D. McFadden, published in the New York Times. And the title, Ruth Johnson Colvin, Champion of Literacy, is dead at 107. Working out of her basement and with no teaching experience, she created a nonprofit that helped people around the world learn to read.
Wow.
So, maybe we could split paragraph here, Cara? Was that
fine.
Yeah? All right, I'll read the first one. So, Robert McFadden begins. Ruth Johnson Colvin, who founded what became one of the world's largest organizations of volunteers tutoring basic language skills to functionally illiterate peoples in America and other lands, opening doors to citizenship and better lives died on Sunday at her home in Syracuse, New York. She was 107.
Sorry, but my computer was kind of turning sideways. In 1961, Miss Colvin, a middle-aged, college-educated Syracuse homemaker and mother of two, was appalled to discover that the recent census had counted 11,055 residents of Onondaga County, New York, who could not read or write. She had no experience teaching, but felt passionately she had to do something about it.
A year later, after consulting reading specialists and service agencies, she opened an office in her basement, began recruiting volunteers from churches to be tutors, wrote training manuals, and set up a small group to reach out to residents, many of them immigrants, to teach them basic English, offering pathways to jobs, education, and rising standards of living.
It was slow going at first. In 1967, the group, Literacy Volunteers, was chartered by New York State as a nonprofit with 77 tutors, 100 students, and Miss Colvin as its first president. In succeeding decades under her guidance, the organization won federal and private grants, created programs in many states, won national recognition, and changed its name to Literacy Volunteers of America.
After a 2002 merger with Laubach Literacy International, the organization became pro-literacy, with hundreds of programs and 100,000 tutors in 42 states and 60 other countries, offering lessons in scores of languages at homes, workplaces, prisons, and other sites. For 60 years, Ms. Colvin remained a teacher and administrator, traveled widely, and wrote 12 books on her work.
Wow. She was showered with honorary doctorates and received the President's Volunteer Service Award from President Ronald Reagan in 1987. She was inducted into the National Women's Hall of Fame in 1993 and received the nation's highest civilian honor, the Presidential Medal of Freedom, from President George W. Bush in a 2006 White House ceremony.
Former
Should I
President.
read that?
Oh, go ahead.
Since it's linked to that paragraph.
Yeah.
Ruth Colvin is a person of intelligence and vision and heart, Mr. Bush said in making the presentation, and she has earned the gratitude of many and the admiration of us all.
In 2019, still working, exercising, and playing golf at the age of 102, Ms. Colvin was feted by the New York State Senate in Albany as a pioneering champion of literacy. Senator Rachel May, a Syracuse Democrat and chairwoman of the Committee on Aging, said, Ruth Colvin reminds us all by her example of the profound positive impact one person can have on the lives of others.
In November 2020, phone interview for this obituary from her home in Syracuse, Miss Colvin, then a month short of 104, offered an encyclopedic valedictory on her life. Is that how you say that? Encyclopedic valedictory? Valedictory?
I was going to guess valedictory.
On her life, recalling names, dates, schools, and colleges she attended for, as well as travels, song lyrics, relationships with relatives and friends long gone, and a finely tuned appreciation of the diverse world of religions, races, and cultures she had seen.
Ms. Colvin said, "Who wants to read about this old lady?" She said, "I'm asked all the time about the secret to my longevity. It's a balanced life, I tell them. When you look back over what happened in your life, you see the things that made you what you are. In my case, those things made me a very determined person."
Cool.
Yeah, I thought that was really interesting.
Sorry.
What?
I put my hand in the screen.
Oh, you're like,
my screen was
hi.
blurry.
That was awesome. Hi.
No, my screen looks blurry, so I was trying to. But is that just the buffering or something?
It must be the buffering. I mean, you're actually clear on my side.
Maybe I'm just losing my marbles. I don't know. My eyes are just blurry. But it does get blurry sometimes.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So
Probably all.
So the thing I found interesting about this, I mean, it's something that, so what was her name? Rachel May? No. Rachel Ray? Senator, where was the senator? Rachel May. I was right. Okay. Rachel May, a Syracuse Democrat. Her quote was, "Ruth Colvin reminds us all by her example of the profound positive impact one person can have on the lives of others." And I think that's something that, as I've gotten older, I've understood more in a personal way. Like where I've thought for once in my life, I can make a difference. Because I think for whatever reason, for most of my life, it's been kind of, I don't know, you see the people who do the great things and you're like, oh, that's cool. They're special or they're inherently
Yeah.
better or different or something, and then I'm
Yeah.
like, wait, they're just like me. I'm just like
Yeah.
them. So and that's what the story reminds me of. I'm like, if she saw a problem, she realized that so many people were illiterate in her community and she wanted to change that. And so she did it. She's like, that's it.
Yeah. It's also so like along that same line. It's a hard to imagine yourself making. It feels like It feels when you're just by yourself in something, it makes you feel weak or like ineffectual. But I don't think that's reality.
Right. Well, that's the other thing. She went out of her way to actually get help and to create a network of people to do this thing that she wanted. So in reality, it wasn't just her, but she was
Right.
the impetus for starting the whole endeavor. She was the point of the
Right.
spear, one might say.
But that's what. But then that also brings to mind the importance of people coming together in numbers. If you believe about a cause,
Right.
believe in a cause, then you don't need to like leave it in the hands of a few.
Right.
You need to actively join and help and
Right.
serve.
She formed a coalition of people, and that's
Yeah.
partly why she was. I mean, I think that's probably solely why she was effective in the end.
Yeah.
Because without all those other people helping her, she reached out to specialists first. She did her research, and then she reached out to her friends at her church and in her community to try to begin this process. And then it grew into this giant organization because there's a real need for it.
It's pretty cool.
It is really cool. I also thought it was interesting. It said so in 2019 when she was 102. This article says that she was still working, exercising, and playing golf.
Good for her.
I'm
Golf's
like,
good for the mind, I think.
yeah,
It's a very strategic sport, from what I understand.
yeah. Also, I mean, you get to be out in nature.
And you're active. You're using your body.
I mean, I don't know if I would live to 102 if I played golf because, like, the one time I played golf on an actual course, I ended up like swearing a lot because I was horrible at it. Like, I remember one time I was I was going to say up to bat, but that's not what you say. Up
Swing.
to swing.
But I bet you bought all the cool attire.
I
'Cause you always
didn't. I didn't buy anything.
Really?
I know.
Wow.
Yeah, I wasn't really invested yet. So,
I'm a little surprised.
and then
Okay.
given how terrible the first outing was, I was like, I shouldn't do this.
Yeah.
Anyway, I went
don't
up to
really golf.
swing the tee. I don't know what you
Yeah.
say. And I was like, the ball is going to go that way. And it literally went in the opposite direction. I don't know how I did it. I was just like, I should just go sit down and like
Probably.
leave this. I still want to try it one day. I think I just need instruction. Anyway,
Yeah, I don't know why the ball went the other way.
yeah, it's a mystery.
That's not funny. That's embarrassing.
It was. I was embarrassed. It was bad.
Just kidding.
Yeah. Okay. All right. We're going to move on to the last person we're going to focus on in depth. And this is about Lily Ledbetter. And I first came across Lily Ledbetter's name in a presentation I did during the summer. And it was when I was reading advancements for women, like reading the names of cases and things. And I remember seeing her name a part of this case, and we'll talk about that in a second. But okay, so Lily Ledbetter, born April 13th, 1948, the same year as my dad, and then died this year, October 12th, 2024. And this little blurb we have is from the website, the National Women's Hall of Fame. It doesn't have an author. It's just kind of their little blurb on Lily Ledbetter. So, Carrie, do you want to start us off?
Sure.
Okay.
For more than a decade, Lily Ledbetter fought to achieve pay equity. It was in Alabama, where Ledbetter was born and raised, that she began a crusade that would eventually lead her all the way to the nation's capital. In 1979, she took a job at the Goodyear Tire and Rubber Company in Gadsden, Alabama. Although she was the only woman in her position as an overnight supervisor, she began her career earning the same salary as her male colleagues. By the end of her career, however, Lily was earning less than any of the men in the same position.
Although she signed a contract with her employer that she would not discuss pay rates, just before Ledbetter's retirement, an anonymous individual slipped a note into her mailbox listing the salaries of the men performing the same job. In spite of the fact that Ledbetter had received a top performance award from the company, she discovered that she had been paid considerably less than her male counterparts.
Ledbetter filed a formal complaint with the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission and later initiated a lawsuit alleging pay discrimination. After filing her complaint with the EEOC, Ledbetter, then in her 60s, was reassigned such duties as lifting heavy tires. Wow. The formal lawsuit claimed pay discrimination under Title VII of the Civil Rights... Is that right? Civil Rights Act of 1964 and Equal Pay Act of 1963. Although a jury initially awarded her compensation, Goodyear appealed the decision to the U.S. Supreme Court. In 2007, the Supreme Court ruled on Ledbetter versus Goodyear. In a 5-4 decision, the court determined that employers cannot be sued under the Civil Rights Act if the claims were based on decisions made by the employer 180 days ago or more. Due to the fact that Ledbetter's claim regarding her discriminatory pay was filed outside of that time frame, she was not entitled to receive any monetary award. That is such crap.
I know. And just think about this. In 2007,
Yeah.
the Goodyear Tire Company thought it was a good idea to continue this appeals, even though they obviously discriminated against her and refused to pay her equally to the men when she was doing the same work and doing it very well.
Well, I mean, I think it's the time frames with which these things happen. Like we've seen it with violent crime too. You know, if you're one day over the statute, you're like, sorry, we believe you, but sorry.
Right.
It's just like doesn't make any sense to me.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. Also for the company itself.
I know.
When you've done something wrong, make it right. Don't do. I mean, it's so frustrating. It's so infuriating to see people who know they're doing the wrong thing and then like, oh, I don't have to pay for that, so screw you.
Well, they just don't want to mess with it.
It's ridiculous. I don't like it.
Yeah, as long as they're good, I guess.
Yeah.
All of in the world.
There's this little stipulation that we can get out of this little loophole we're going to take advantage of and screw everybody over. Yay, us. Yeah. Good job, Goodyear. I don't want to buy your tires anymore. Actually, I got to make sure my tires aren't from there. I'm not buying them anymore.
Yeah. I don't think yours are.
Yeah.
Since that decision, Ledbetter has lobbied tirelessly for equal pay for men and women. Her efforts finally proved successful when Barack Obama signed the Lilly Ledbetter Fair Pay Act into law in January of 2009. Ledbetter said of her continuous and persistent efforts, "I told my pastor when I die, I want him to be able to say at my funeral that I made a difference."
I thought that was a good quote. Yeah. And she did. And her pastor can say that. Then there was just a couple little blurbs from a New York Times article that weren't in that, the little synopsis we just read. So this New York Times article is entitled "Lilly Ledbetter, whose fight for equal pay changed U.S. law, dies at 86. Her lawsuit against Goodyear helped pave the way for the 2009 Fair Pay Act, which was signed into law by former President Barack Obama." This article was by Tripp Gabriel and Clara Moses, published October 14th, 2024. And like I said, this article basically says a lot of what we just read, but there were these two spots in it that weren't in the others. So this first one, I'll just read from it. Ms. Ledbetter came to fully embrace her role in the women's rights movement. She became a public speaker, addressing the 2008 and 2012 Democratic National Conventions, worked closely with the National Women's Law Center, and wrote a memoir, Grace and Grit, a movie inspired...
Memoir?
Memoir. That is my country coming out again.
Oh, well, memoirs are the best thing.
Memoirs. Gonna walk that tightrope, the memoir wire.
You didn't even catch it. You're like, what?
Whatever. I've said so many wrong things on the show. Like, remember when the entire episode I said,
Yes.
the guillotine?
Yeah.
What did I say? The
You
guillotine.
said that, the guillotine.
Yeah.
Yeah. Still, you still don't even know.
I know. How do you say it?
The guillotine is how
The
I've
guillotine.
said it.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
Oh, I didn't mean to interrupt here.
Okay, so she had a movie. Okay, so she wrote a memoir.
Good job.
Entitled Grace and Grit. And she has a movie inspired by her life, Lily, premiered at the Hamptons Film Festival this month with Patricia Clarkson in the title role. Okay, now Kara's going to read much better than I just did. the next
I
little
don't know.
blurb.
Early on, she was the target of sexual harassment. She wrote in an opinion column in the New York Times in 2018 when she complained to a human resources official about harassing statements that a male supervisor had made to her. "You're going to be my next woman at Goodyear," and "Oh, you didn't wear your bra today." Wow. She was told to stay home while an investigation was conducted. Miss Ledbetter refused, since the man involved was not required also to stay home. "If he stays, I stay," she recalls insisting.
Yeah, so I
Wow.
I wanted to highlight that because it's just like it's kind of what we all experience, in different ways. But she was just like from the beginning, she was like, "No, this is not okay." You know, I mean,
You
it's
know,
just, yeah,
that's great. It is great. I consider myself one of those women too, to be honest. I was like, no, from the start.
right,
I won't put up this, but you still get absolutely destroyed.
right. Well, like look what they did to her at this company. So like clearly she I don't know what happened to this guy. Maybe we don't know. We don't know if he was disciplined or whatever happened to this complaint. But then so she's working and the company knows they're not paying her a fair wage for the same work that her male counterparts are doing. So they're treating her discriminatorily, they're discriminating against
And
her.
then,
And
and
then
then,
and then when she files a complaint, then they make her lift heavy tires when she's close to retirement after the age of 60
yeah.
to
And then
punish
they
her.
send her home while the investigation's going on.
Yeah, I mean it's just like over and over and over again. Then she wins the first case, and then it's appealed eventually to the Supreme Court, and they strike down the ruling granting her, I'm assuming, compensation on a technicality.
Yeah.
And so in the end, she loses that as well. So the company never gets
Never ended up
real.
doing.
Yeah, there's never real justice there to hold Goodyear accountable for what they did to her, other than we all know now.
I often just don't think the companies typically care about the actual substance of the claims. I don't
No,
really think they usually do.
most companies just care about themselves.
They just don't want the drama, and then they want to get back to business.
Yeah, like whatever is going to cause them to not lose money or lose business, that's what they want.
They look bad in PR.
Yeah, yeah. If they can get away with it and not have, bear any responsibility or like pay any damages, they're going to do that. And that's
It's just
sad.
disheartening. Yeah,
Yeah, it's not good.
to the core.
Okay. We're on to woman number 3. Her name is Lynn Conway, and she was a pioneer in the design of microchips who overcame great discrimination as a transgender woman. And she was born January 2nd, 1938, and died June 9th, 2024. And I'm not going to read this whole article because some of it gets really like wordy in regards to the scientific stuff related to the microchips, but maybe we can kind of skip around a little bit. This article comes from the University of Michigan's Engineering News on its website,
Okay.
news.engin.umich.edu. And the article is titled "The Legacy of Lynn Conway, Chip Design Pioneer and Transgender Rights Advocate. Conway, Professor Emerita of Electrical Engineering and Computer Science, has died." And this is by
He
Nicole.
was 86.
Yes.
She lived a long life. Okay.
It's by Nicole Casal Moore and published June 11th, 2024.
Okay.
Do you want to start?
Yes. Does it start right under that? Why she was 86 years old?
This starts Lynn Conway, who quietly. Yes. The one that starts with Lynn Conway, who quietly revolutionized. That one?
Yeah. Well, we already said all that. So,
Oh, okay.
yeah. Why not question everything was one of her guiding philosophies. The Professor Emerita of Electrical Engineering and Computer Sciences told the Michigan Engineer magazine in 2014. Conway has been called the hidden hand of the 1970s chip design movement that made today's consumer, electronics, and personal computing devices possible. She joined the Michigan's engineering faculty in 1985 as Associate Dean for Instruction and Instructional Technology. She was retired for U of M in 1998, remained an influential part of the community, advising faculty members, speaking at events, having lunch with students on occasion. As a young adult, Conway was one of the first Americans to undergo a modern gender transition, and in her retirement, she became an outspoken advocate for transgender rights and women in STEM fields.
Then a quote by Michael Wellman, who is the Lynn A. Conway Collegiate Professor and the Richard H. Ornstein Division Chair of Computer Science and Engineering, he says, Lynn Conway's example of engineering impact and personal courage has been a great source of inspiration for me and countless others. I was privileged to know her as a colleague and honored to hold a collegiate professorship in her name. Other faculty members remember her friendly, sage advice in difficult times, her positive outlook, warm encouragement, creativity, and singular vision. Conway described herself in 2014 as a perennial beginner, never afraid to take on learning how to do new things. She had no experience with microchips before she developed a simpler, scalable method for designing them with Caltech professor Carver Mead at the renowned Xerox Palo Alto Research Center in the mid-1970s. Renowned. Did I say renowned? Thank you. Their textbook and the courses it spawned standardized and democratized a process that was once the sole purview of specialists at large private semiconductor firms. Thousands of students were soon trained during what came to be known as the Mead-Conway Revolution and very large-scale integration. Very large-scale integration refers to the process of arranging increasingly small and more plentiful transistors on an integrated circuit. I was thinking of like little fleas doing the microchips at the circus. Da, 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 da.
Wow.
Okay, I'm gonna move on. Yeah.
Okay.
All right, we'll move on. A quote by Valeria Bertaco. Do you think it's Bear Taco? Bear Taco. Bertaco?
Okay.
Okay. She says, and I should be laughing, she's actually the Mary Lou Dorff Collegiate Professor of Computer Science and Engineering at University of Michigan, Vice Provost for Engaged Learning. So she says, my field would not exist without Lynn Conway. Chips used to be designed by drawing them with paper and pencil, like an architect's blueprints in the pre-digital era. Conway's work developed algorithms that enabled our field to use software to arrange millions and later billions of transistors on a chip. So,
Wow.
yeah. Then another quote. Who is Atkins? Dan Atkins, Professor Emeritus of Information and Electrical Engineering. He says it should have been called the Conway-Mead method. So her name first. He knew Conway by her reputation as a visionary thinker, and she brought that brand of futurism to the college. He says she really helped us see over the horizon and decided what to prioritize. Lynn could identify the white spaces we might explore between different fields. She was a person you would talk to and come away saying, I hadn't thought of that. During most of her noteworthy career, Conway kept a low profile. It felt necessary for safety and security, especially after she was fired from IBM for being open about her transition in 1968. The company apologized in 2020. But as a result, many of her contributions were overlooked for a long time. In 2000, she noticed others being credited for aspects of it. She decided to begin telling her story, first on her website and later in a special issue of IEEE Solid-State Circuits. Along the way, she developed a robust catalog of online resources and advice about gender identity and transitioning. More recently, she named her experience of being sidelined in history the Conway effect and chronicled instances involving others who weren't expected to innovate. She overcame so much, but she didn't spend her life being angry about the past. Bear Taco says she was always focused on the next innovation. And then, Kara, would you like to read this little? Do you want to read this blurb or about her life, or you want me to keep going? Are you still laughing at my Bear Taco?
Well, I
Or
was just thinking it might be Vertigo or something.
Bear Taco?
I'm not saying. I just don't know if Bear Taco. Probably not. I'm just saying. What do you want me to read from?
Conway was born in Mount Vernon, New York.
Okay. She studied physics at MIT, earned a bachelor's and master's in electrical engineering from Columbia University. In addition to her roles at IBM, Xerox, and U of M, she also held positions as a visiting professor at MIT, chief scientist at the National Science Foundation, and assistant director for strategic computing at the Defense Advanced Research Projects Agency. Wow. She held 5 U.S. patents and honorary doctorates from Trinity College Illinois Institute of Technology, University of Victoria, Syracuse University, Princeton University, and U of M, among others. Conway was a member of the National Academy of Engineering. She is survived by her husband, Charles Charlie Rogers, whom she met in 1987. They shared a passion for adventure sports, whitewater canoeing, motocross racing. The ripple effect of her contributions to technology education, inclusive culture, will continue to propagate at micro and macro scales. Wow.
Yeah.
I mean, it's pretty striking to me that she maintains such a positive attitude and not holding on to anger. That's a big deal.
Right. It's hard to do.
That's hard to do,
Right.
especially when you've given so much and then you get so much taken from you for just being yourself.
Right. Yeah. What I thought here at the end we would do is kind of, since we just talked about these three women and their lives, to kind of look at the similarities that exist between them. And so the things that struck me, the similarities, you have hardship, you have things like being the first woman doing something, facing discrimination, facing setbacks, facing harassment, and things like that.
Yeah.
And then you'll find similar responses.
That
So
would
you,
be really hard too when you feel like you're the first one experiencing something. There's nothing to necessarily look back on.
right?
Anyway, sorry.
No, I mean, that's kind of part of what we're talking about as well. I mean, that's a hardship by itself. If you're the first of something, that's uncharted territory. Yeah. And the similar responses. So we saw determination, persistence, a fight, struggling, pushing forward, and resilience. And that's woven in their stories as well. So I found that inspirational. Just kind of, three different women, three different lives, same time frame, but very unique, specific parts of society. And yet these are the very similar ways they lived their lives and did these great things.
Yep.
And then specifically, so we saw Sheila Jackson Lee pushing for social justice, equality, and freedom. And then we saw Ruth Johnson Colvin working to make sure others could read and write, to pursue education and a better path forward for their lives. And then Lynn Conway striving for greater technological advances that help all of us today. And all the while encouraging students and faculty with her wisdom and support, and also leading the charge for rights and protections for the transgender community, leading with incredible authenticity and vulnerability. So
Yeah, I mean, you always hear about these women, and they're just, I don't know, maybe it's a overgeneralization, but they always seem just kind and warm and giving and just thoughtful people, despite all that they're put through.
yeah, I'm sure they have their moments of anger.
Well, sure, but
you
it's a
know.
remarkable quality to hold on to that after you've been through things.
Right. They've learned how to process the anger, move through the anger, and then remain resilient, continuing forward. It's
That took me a long time, and I'm glad I got there.
yeah, it's hard. I mean, it's not an
It is
easy
hard
thing.
until you process through it.
Yeah.
The trauma of the anger, trauma and anger.
Yeah. We don't have to. So we have a list of other women, notable women who passed away. I don't know if we need to read everything. What do you think, Kara?
We could just give their names.
Okay.
A brief synopsis of who they are, maybe. Dr. Ruth Westheimer, acclaimed sex therapist who confronted the taboo of talking about sex publicly through an open and non-judgmental style. Radio and talk show host. You want to do the next one?
Sure. Pioneering editor Betty Prashker was one of the first women to work in a major executive role at a major publisher. She worked at Crown Publishing as senior vice president and editor-in-chief, and she published feminist classics like Sexual Politics by Kate Millett and Backlash by Susan Faludi.
Actor Jenna Rollins. Her career in film, television, and stage spanned nearly 7 decades. She won Emmys, Golden Globes, and was nominated for Oscars.
And then I love this actress or actor,
Okay.
Maggie Smith. Dame Margaret Natalie Smith, a British actor known for her poignancy and wit in comedic and dramatic roles. And of course, she was in some of my favorite shows like
Oh, yeah.
Downton Abbey and Harry Potter.
I didn't recognize her name, but yeah, she's great.
Yeah.
Great actress. Stunt artist Janine Epper, actor and stunt woman who appeared in over 100 films and television series.
And Irish author Edna O'Brien, a novelist, short story writer, and screenwriter. She is known for her portrayals of women, evocative description, and sexual candor.
Pioneering tech executive Susan Wojcicki. I'm not sure how I pronounce that, but was Google's first marketing manager and went on to be CEO of YouTube. Cool.
I should
I'm
not.
sure I didn't get that name right, but
Well, don't ask me
maybe I
because we.
got close. Maybe I got close.
I don't have a very good track record.
Wojcicki. Pioneering tech executive. Okay.
Racing pioneer Mary McGee was the first woman to compete in motorcycle road racing and motocross events in the U.S. She started out as a sports car racer and moved into motorcycle and motocross later.
Cool. Author and artist Faith Ringgold was a painter, mixed media sculptor, author, performing artist, teacher, and activist. Her work addressed issues of race, gender, and social justice.
All right.
Okay. Cool.
Yeah. I thought that was really interesting.
Want to talk about... Go ahead.
Nope.
You go.
Me?
Yeah, what were you going to say?
No, I was going to say we could. I thought that was really interesting to talk about the women and look at their lives.
Cool.
Yeah.
Now what?
I guess now we'll look at events from the past year.
Okay.
Noteworthy events. So the first one was January 26th of 2024. E. Jean Carroll versus Donald J. Trump. The jury awards Carroll $83.3 million after finding Trump guilty of defamation. And there's new news on that today, but that was from the beginning of the year. And the same day, the Justice Department found former New York Governor Andrew Cuomo liable for sexual harassment.
Cool. April of 2024, Department of Justice agrees to pay 1.318. Good grief! Justice agrees to pay 138.7 million to the victims of Larry Nassar for the mishandled investigation by the FBI. Sorry,
No.
138.7 million. Wow,
Yeah.
I didn't realize that. That's new news.
Yeah.
Because didn't I'm not sure, but did the college, was it Michigan State or was it? Sorry, I'm gonna get the wrong college. University of Michigan. Where did he work? Did they pay the victims?
I don't know. We'd have to look that up.
Get that wrong.
Yeah. Or I'll keep going while you look it up. So April 25th, 2024, former film producer Harvey Weinstein's 2020 rape conviction is overturned by the New York Court of Appeals by a vote of 4-3, and a new trial is ordered. Weinstein will still remain in prison in California for his 2022 rape conviction. Let's see. Then this year, we had the first Black woman and first South Asian woman to be named as a major U.S. party's presidential nominee, Kamala Harris. And then, Kara, did you find out information about the Department of Justice and their settlement with Larry Nassar, the victims?
Well, I'm trying to find it. It says, so it's weird. It says, the former University of Michigan sports doctor, but then down here it says Michigan State University's agreement to settle claims. So what's those to me sound like two different colleges, right? Or are those the same?
Read the first one.
I'll just go to a different site.
Yeah. Maybe he worked at two different colleges.
It's weird, right?
Yeah.
I guess it's possible.
I thought it was University of Michigan, but...
I did too. I think it is. This is University of Michigan. It reaches a $490 million settlement
There we go.
over sexual abuse. Former sports doctor. University of Michigan. So
Good. When was that? When
yeah,
did they...
that's huge.
When what was the date on that?
I already closed it.
It's okay. We don't need to know. It's fine. It was probably recently.
It would. I think those were older because he was convicted a while back. Let's see.
Okay.
Chrome. Tell you what. Okay. NPR. Let's see. That was January of 22
Okay, 2022. Okay.
that they finally
2 years ago.
came to that settlement. Okay. Sorry.
Almost 3 years ago. Okay. All right.
I didn't
So
realize the Department of Justice agreed to pay. Wow.
yeah,
Good for. I mean, they should have. That was disgusting.
yeah,
Miscarriage of justice on so many levels.
right. So we were going to. So we started off with the first event from January 26th about the E. Jean Carroll case, and today, literally, there's another ruling. So Trump appealed that first case. So this would have been the case where E. Jean Carroll was awarded $5 million for defamation, and also Donald Trump was found liable for sexual abuse. So that first case, he appealed that case, and then today he lost that appeal. And New York Times article today appeared. Trump loses appeal of Carroll's $5 million award in sex abuse case. The president-elect had asked a court to overturn the defamation judgment against him in the case, which centered on E. Jean Carroll's account of a sexual attack in a dressing room. And this article was by Lola Fadulu and published today, December 30th, 2024. We could read about this, or I think a lot of people know, but I think we're going to do a podcast episode just on this coming up soon. So we don't necessarily need to read about this. What do you think?
Right. No, it's fine.
Yeah.
He's
Okay.
pushing it online too.
He's what?
He's just pushing it online too. He has no ability to
Yeah. I mean, he keeps losing these defamation
follow
cases.
follow the law.
Yeah. And he's continues to be found like
Continues to defame her.
Yeah, he continues to do this, even this past week. So he's going to owe a lot of money. All right. Yeah. So I think we're going to do a podcast episode on that. I just kind of decided that today. Cara and I talked about it. We're like, we're going to do that. We're going to look at these 3 cases more extensively. Bye-bye, computer. Yeah.
I haven't balanced on this thing. Okay.
Oh. What's the thing it's balanced on? A
Let's
banana?
see. Yeah.
Apples.
What?
Apples. I don't know.
You're weird.
Some oranges.
Okay.
Okay. All right. So we're kind of moving into the resolution section. This is not necessarily related to what we just talked about. I was thinking we could have made it more poignant, like to be like I think we should aspire to be like the women we learned about, you know?
For sure.
So I think part of it for me is like believing in yourself, believing that the power of the individual as well.
Yeah, and that you don't have to be, like you said earlier, you don't have to be this. So, I don't know. Everyone's special and unique in their own way. You
Right.
can make a difference. You just have to, like, open your mouth and do the work.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think also the concept of coalition building, like I think that's
I think,
important as well.
yeah, I think things, well, I mean, like, for instance, my story, you know, all I did was stand up for something I believed was very wrong.
Right.
And, you know, it has made an impact, a bigger impact than I ever expected, but I didn't go out, like, trying to change anything, per se. I just was standing up for a wrong, against a wrong,
Well, I mean,
against me.
we didn't really talk about that yet, but like for us personally, that was the biggest event of our year was the article coming out.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
It was huge. It was terrifying in the beginning.
Right.
I mean, before it came out, it was very scary
Yeah.
because it had been such an openly talked about secret or scandal for so many years. And, you know, we saw the way it was received
Right.
when it happened and then in the years post. And it wasn't a good response
Right.
by and large
Yeah.
on any level. All the institutions that failed me, us, people who failed us. Just like it really caused me to lose faith in humanity for a very long time, as you know.
Right.
And it makes you just feel incredibly, incredibly devalued and debased as a human. But, you know, then thankfully Sammy came along
Yeah.
and saw this as a public interest piece. And, you know, it was scary to come forward, very scary. But that first day was shocking.
Yeah. I just had a rush of like feelings go through my body because I just was remembering that day and like the intense feeling, the tense nerves that I felt that day.
Yeah, and for you, I mean, you've known me for so long, but I remember all those years I would always be so perplexed because I knew all the things that had gone on behind the scenes. I knew the evidence. I knew everything. I'd been through it. And I was like, if people just knew the truth,
Right.
how could they not be disgusted by this? I always
Right.
said that.
Right.
And but the response I got thrown back in my face was just never that. It was never one of understanding or of any of it. So anyway, when that article came out and it was all laid bare, finally, felt like people were like, "Oh my God!" I was like, "Yeah, yeah,
Right.
that's how I felt for 15 years."
Right.
But again, you can never know how people are going to respond to this kind of abuse. So I feel very fortunate that that was the reaction.
Yeah.
Because as we know, I've seen it go badly many, many times in many various ways.
Right. Yeah,
I
I
would say
was.
the one thing, I know this isn't necessarily maybe the point of this podcast, but I would say one thing that I would still hope to receive from people who really, really were gross to me, were disgusting to me. I hope at some point people will reach out and apologize, at the very least. I doubt
Right.
that'll ever happen. I think that takes a huge amount of strength on someone's part, but that would be nice.
Yeah. I mean, for me, I have no hope of that because I feel like they showed us their true colors. They
I
showed
don't
us
either.
they showed us who they really were as a human, what they're about,
Yeah.
and unfortunately, they they're not good people, basically.
Yeah.
So,
I mean,
not
I
hold
don't
my
know.
breath.
I mean, I'm talking about people that weren't directly, you know, involved.
Right.
People who were in the periphery, people who supported the
Yeah.
indefensible.
Right. Yeah.
Um,
I was also going to say, kind of looking back at the year, I struggled with health problems like in January, the beginning of this year, and it lasted for months. And it was basically like gastrointestinal issues, like indigestion, painful
yeah.
pressure, all this weird stuff. Where I thought it was my heart, and it was really scary. And I'm starting to feel like maybe it was actually related to the anxiety related to the article because
Could have been.
because
I mean,
it's basically gone now, which is kind of weird.
yeah, that's good.
Yeah.
I mean, I went through huge amounts of anxiety. It
Right.
impacted me in various ways. I still think it's responsible for some of my migraines.
Yeah,
It's hard on your body.
it is. It's really hard. Um, okay, so those are sort of reflections of our own last year. And
Yeah,
we
those
could,
are those are my reflections. I think as far as like moving forward, and I want to continue to move forward in healing and evolving. I want to, you know, I want to continue growing as a person. I want to continue my healing process.
right.
For me personally, I'm still trying to figure out how I feel about music in the industry, how I feel about future goals, and that's kind of ever evolving. But I want to keep going in that direction, taking time to like reframe and keeping things positive
Right.
as I move forward.
I think something for me moving forward that I feel is important is to continue talking about sexual assault and sexual violence because unfortunately, we're going to see a lot of pushback about this. Because you have you have Donald Trump, who we just talked about, has been accused by many women of sexual misconduct, and he portrays the quintessential reaction of society and of people accused. It's to deny, to deflect, to defame, to lie about people, to, all sorts of things. It's what's always been done by people who are most likely guilty, because we statistically, again, we always share the statistic 92 to 98% of women who come forward are telling the truth. That is a statistic from the RAINN organization, RAINN.org. And I feel it's important to continue talking about that because of that pushback from very powerful people who want to pretend like it's not a big deal, like women are just a bunch of liars and all this stuff. And so we're going to keep talking about it. I just feel like we have to, like, because the issue is not going away. And it makes you very frustrated because I feel like there has been momentum, from the Me Too movement, in our industry. The reaction to the article was so positive. And then it's seeing this, and then seeing this re-election of this type of individual to sit in this high, powerful position. It's very demoralizing, but the issue is still there. So we just have to keep moving forward.
I think we also, with regard to sexual crimes, we have to change the way we address them, and like from the investigation standpoint. And these crimes happen largely in private places under the guard of night, like and how do you reach that point where like how do you prove it, and how does people don't want to accept the reality of these situations.
Right.
There's always just excuse upon excuse about why. Well, what about this? But this? But this? But what if? And I'm like, well, at what point do we just look at reality for what it is?
Right.
So.
And we always recommend people read the book by Deborah Turkheimer, Credible, for more information. It's extremely infuriating to read, but it's very informative. She gives case after case of very specific examples of what women go through after they've been assaulted. So, so I guess that's sort of like a resolution for us to continue talking about this very important issue. And so I tend to, so for New Year's, I always go like, I always want to have resolutions because I always feel like there's some momentum that you can generate there for yourself. And then of course I like spin out and don't accomplish. Although last year, 2 years ago, I did really well. Last year, I was struggling with GERD. My esophagus was angry at me. So, okay, so 2 books I'm kind of looking at right now to help me with this. One is by Ayelet Fishbach. She's the Eric J. Gleacher Distinguished Service Professor of Behavioral Science and Marketing at the University of Chicago Booth School of Business. Her book, Get It Done, Surprising Lessons from the Science of Motivation, is one I'm trying to read a little bit of. A quote by Adam Grant about this book: Ayelet Fishbach is a leading expert on motivation. Her research has consistently produced insights that are both surprising and useful. In this engaging book, she shows what it takes to close the gap between your intentions and your actions. So, yeah. And then another book I'm looking at is Atomic Habits by James Clear. And this is a quote of his: "New goals don't develop new results, new lifestyles do. And a lifestyle is a process, not an outcome. For this reason, all of your energy should go into building better habits, not chasing better results." So those are some two books I'm looking at to kind of help me with my goals. And so my goals are always the same. They tend to focus on health, finances, and then some type of spiritual practice. So losing weight, because I ate a lot of cookies just now. Oh, man. What else? Funny. I'm trying to think of what. My dad bought all these cookies, and unfortunately, like, they're things that I just can't have in the house. So, Cara, you know this. Like, when you buy things, like, that are part of that list of things that I have trouble saying no to, she has to hide them from me. I have to close my eyes and, like, close my ears, and then Cara hides things. So.
Really funny.
Yeah, but, like, the kettle corn popcorn, can't have that in the house. That's really a bad one. Pita chips, those can be bad too. Yeah. Anyway. Sorry, Cara. Okay, I'm gonna hurry up. So I thought was kind of interesting. This new study about women and exercise, and I share it really quickly because I felt encouraged by it. And so a lot of times in the past, when I would set my resolutions, like, I'm going to work out 5 times a week, I'm going to lift weights 3 times a week, like all this, like, I would always like, within a week I'd be like, well, I didn't do that.
Yeah.
So for me, I'm kind of aiming lower. Cool. So set the bar lower. So I'm basing it like twice. If I can work out twice a week for 30 minutes each, that's all I need. And part of this is based on a study that I read. So the study comes from the Schmidt Heart Institute at Cedars-Sinai, and it showed that there is a gap between women and men when it comes to exercise. So the good news is apparently women can achieve the same exercise benefits as men with less effort.
That's interesting.
Right?
I always just like think go out and walk, do something active like 30 minutes a day, at least.
Yeah.
I mean, I like to run, but I also think like sometimes when you get into that really high intensity type exercise, it can kind of work against you sometimes.
Yeah.
Maybe not cardiovascularly or anything like that, but like if you're looking to lose weight.
Right. So this is totally. So this is a quote from that little article. Men get a maximum survival benefit when performing 300 minutes of moderate to vigorous activity per week, whereas women get the same benefit from 140 minutes per week. So it's
Wow.
160 minutes less.
I think you either sent that to me or I read it personally. But yeah, I saw that.
Yeah. But then it says, nevertheless, women continue to get further benefit for up to 300 minutes a week. So
I think we should like just start walking in the mornings, like straight away, or like
I do walk,
evening.
Coda.
No, I mean like walk miles and then come back.
Okay.
Yeah,
That sounds rough.
walking's great for you.
I love having my tea in the morning. It involves sitting in
And
that
our
chair
bodies
over
are
there.
designed well for it.
That's true. I know. Okay, so if you wanted to read this further, go to cedarssinai.org. It's called Women Get the Same Exercise Benefits as Men, but with Less Effort. And it was published February 19th, 2024. And the actual published document of the study is in the Journal of the American College of Cardiology. Yeah.
Cool.
Okay, Kara. Maybe you already kind of did your resolutions.
I think I just want to continue just trying to be the best person I can be, being kind to people, being more generous, being even keel, like responding in compassion and kindness and love, like trying to be less, angry or whatnot. So
Yeah.
easy to do in our society and with everything stimulating us all the time.
Right.
I don't know. I don't know that there's any like grand things I'm trying to do. I just continue on the same path of something that's new to me is like this idea of positive reframing. I've struggled with negativity during my lifetime and being out of that, which was a big plus of trauma therapy that brought me to a new place.
Yeah.
So I think I just want to continue in that vein of anytime anything in life kind of feels like a setback, just trying to reframe it.
Yeah, that sounds good. She talks about that, the Ayelet Fishbach. She talks about kind of reframing things.
I mean, it's a big deal. There are times when, my migraine, I have vestibular migraines and they really bog me down sometimes and they frustrate me. And then I'm like, okay, yes, they're frustrating, but in the grand scheme of things, I'm pretty lucky. And, life is not easy on anyone. We all deal with things. I'm lucky to still be able to do what I do my job, exercise, like do all the things I enjoy.
Yeah.
But I think that is big, and it's not something that I was super strong at, was this idea of reframing things.
Right.
I do it with my students a lot, too. Try to reframe their thinking and help them see the way forward that's a little more uphill, or not uphill, positive,
Positive. Yeah.
an upward trajectory.
Right.
Not uphill, an uphill battle.
Moving forward.
No, but that is a real skill set, and one that I lacked big time in my younger years.
Right.
So it even feels like a blessing to have that now. I mean, really, to be able to self-soothe, to be able to have that ability to reframe anything is a strong skill set to have.
Right.
Not something that everyone has in their arsenal.
Right. Yeah.
So that's what I'd say.
That sounds good. Well, I guess we're done.
Okay.
Any more thoughts from you, Miss Kara?
I said them all.
We said them all. So we hope
What
we.
about you?
I was just going to say thank you so much for listening. We appreciate everyone who's listened to our podcast this year. It's a new adventure for us. We really appreciate you taking the time to listen and support us. And just want to say Happy New Year. Hopefully your holiday seasons have your holiday season went well, was happy, was merry,
And bright.
and bright. And we hope that this new year will be a great one
Be
for
white.
you. Be white.
Be white. It was the lyrics of the song.
That's awesome.
Yeah, your Christmas will be white. Is that right? Yeah, White Christmas.
Yeah. So a little snowy, perhaps. Yeah. All
I
right.
don't really want snow, but
I like snow.
we're good.
Yeah.
I do too, as long as you don't have to go anywhere in it.
Fair enough.
Coda loves snow.
She loves it. That's right.
Loves it.
Yep. All right. We should go.
Okay.
Thank you for listening, and we will see you next time.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.